Welcome to another episode on the Airborne Podcast. I'm your host, Ajith. We got some more news about the Raptors. Nothing big, but it is one of our own, Rexdale's finest. Dalano Banton gets that rookie scale contract. He gets that rookie bag, and he signs a 2-year, $2.5 million deal. He had some up and downs during his summer league debut, throughout the games actually, versus the Knicks, the Golden State Warriors, and the Houston Rockets. You can see there's a lot of raw potential there. He's only 21 years old, born November 7, 1999. And he was a second-round pick, 46 to be exact, 46 pick in the 2021 draft. And, you know, he made history. He was the first Canadian to ever be drafted by the Toronto Raptors. And he's got a lot of length. He's a 6'9" point guard. That's what he's listed at. He's 204 pounds, I believe. You know, you can see a lot of flashes of his raw talent and why Masai selected him at that spot. And if history has any factor in this, the last time we picked a player at 46 was in the 2015 draft, and his name was Norman Powell. So hopefully that's a positive in terms of, you know, Masai finding these diamond in the roughs in the second round and being able to develop them through the 905 program and getting them to become solid contributors. But for Dalano Banton, he went to Nebraska College in 2020, 2021. And so on December 17, 2020, Dalano Banton recorded just a second triple-double in Nebraska men's basketball history with 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists in Nebraska's 110-64 win over Duane University. He averaged 9.6 points, 5.9 rebounds, and 3.9 assists per game. And the following season, he obviously declared for the 2021 draft and then ended up being selected by the Raptors, as I mentioned earlier. And he went to Kentucky. He went to Western Kentucky, played 31 games as a freshman, averaged 3.4 points, 3 rebounds, 2.1 assists per game. And he made 12 starts there and nearly had a triple-double, 13 rebounds, 10 assists, and 8 points in a career-high 38 minutes in a win over the number 15 Wisconsin. And with the stats throughout the summer league, I mean, you saw potentials. You saw some of his highlights. He had a nasty block, I believe, in the Houston game. He had a nice no-look pass in the Houston game. I believe he had like 3 blocks against the Knicks, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to pull up the stats right now and give you the exact stats from each game. There was one game, I believe it was the Warriors game, where he looked pretty bad. And it looked like he had a hard time adjusting to the NBA speed and just the way they play. But summer league, you can't really get some definitive answers from there. These guys are getting the first minutes, in that NBA tempo. So you got to let them adjust a bit, right? And even guys like Malachi Flynn, who are second-year players, they didn't have a summer league last year because of COVID and all. So a lot of these players that you see in the summer league that got valuable minutes last season in the NBA for certain teams, this is their first summer league. So, even though it's a second season, it's technically kind of their first in the summer league. With Dalano Banton in the New York game, I believe, his stats were he had 5 points, 3 blocks, 2 steals, an assist, and 4 rebounds with 5 turnovers. As a point guard, 5 turnovers isn't the greatest, especially when you only had 1 assist. But that was his first game, his debut on the floor. Technically his first ever NBA game, even though it doesn't really count. And then against the Warriors, his stats were he had 10 points, 2 blocks, 3 steals, 3 assists, and 12 rebounds. So he had a double-double, 10 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and he only had 1 turnover. So you can see that he was able to take care of the ball better in the second game. And a double-double for a point guard, that's solid. I mean, he's got the length. He fits the mold of what the Raptors are trying to build in terms of the roster this season. And for a second game, I mean, you could see the improvement. I honestly thought that he did worse this game, but it looks like he did a lot better. It just seemed like when he was in the game, as he was playing, it didn't seem like he was, he didn't look good on the floor. Like the eye test shows you he wasn't that great, but in terms of his stats, I guess it's pretty decent. His plus minus was 0 for that game, and shot 40% from the field. I want to go back to the New York game real quick and see his percentage. He was a -2 for the game in New York, and I believe he shot 33% from the field, and he also shot 33% from the free throw line. That's one of it. Those are some of his weaknesses. His shooting isn't there. If you notice, his 3-point shot isn't there. He's got a little bit of a midi game, like a mid range. He had a couple shots in the paint, but the most noticeable thing for him is when he's going to the rim. He drives. He has a smooth layup. He has a little English to his finish, but like he's not the fastest player on the floor, but he definitely has an advantage with his length when he gets to the rim, and he has a decent handle. I mean, for his size at 6'9", definitely see a lot of potential there. He's still raw talent, and I feel like if he gets a few years under Fred VanVleet and the 905 program with how they develop players, just based off of their history, you could tell that, our developmental program, along with their main roster, is very tight knit. And I have no doubt that if the man has a solid work ethic, I believe that he could definitely be a future point guard, probably a backup point guard for the Raptors. And with his length, he could play both the positions, whether it's the point guard or the shooting guard position, both guard positions. He can switch back and forth. And then finally, in the Houston Rocket game, I believe that's where he really showed out. It looked like he really took a big jump because New York game, that was the first time you ever seen him on the NBA floor, technically. Obviously, if you'd seen his college highlights before, you'd obviously have an idea of how he plays. But that was the first time I seen him. And then the Houston Rockets game, even though he had a double-double, it didn't seem like he had the greatest game. Obviously, shooting, like I said, 33% from the field in that second game against the Warriors, and then 33% from the free throw line. That's not good at all. And then the Rockets game, which was a back-to-back after the Warriors game, he had 8 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and a block. And I believe this was a game he had a nasty block, a chase down block. And most of his highlights were from this game itself. He had a nice mid-range shot to end the first quarter. He had a no-look pass to a player in the paint. He had a lot of drives to the rim. And it looked like he was adjusting in the right direction in terms of the NBA pace. And honestly, I know we probably have about 10 spots locked in terms of our roster, which would be Fred VanVleet, Malachi Flynn, Gary Trent Jr., Kem Burge, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Chris Boucher more than likely is going to come back. Freddie Glipsy will probably get a spot on the roster. And then you got Yuta Watanabe. That's about 10 players right there. And then the roster is made up of 15 spots. So you got guys like Ishmael Wainwright, Sam Decker, Isaac Bonga, and now Dalano Banton. And you also got other rookies that also showed out. Champagne, you got David Johnson, and yeah, you got those guys. And those guys will be fighting for a spot too. But more than likely, those guys will probably be in the G League with Delano, developing his game, and we'll call him up whenever we need him. Hopefully, we don't have another injury-riddled season. Hopefully, being back in Toronto rubs us the right way, gives us that luck to stay healthy once again, and to make a playoff push. I know it might seem like wishful thinking to think that they're going to make the playoffs because the East is so much more better this season with with teams like Chicago getting Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan. And then they got Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic there. Don't know how that's going to gel, but if I could trust one player that can make a playoff push or help a team take them to the playoffs after a really long time, it's DeMar DeRozan. And then you got teams like the Atlanta Hawks who are coming off a very solid season, exceeded expectations, coming off a real high, and coming off a bunch of, their young core is coming off an offseason where they got big extensions. John Collins, a 5-year, $125 million. You got Trae Young, 5-year, $207. And their playoff experience is definitely going to help them throughout the regular season. Then you got a healthy Brooklyn team, healthy Milwaukee team coming off a championship. They're going to have a different swagger now that they've made it all the way to the finals and won it. And then you got Miami, who's got our former player, our GOAT, Kyle Lowry. They signed PJ Tucker. They signed Markieff Morris. They got Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. So their defense is going to be crazy. And, they really put together a serious team that really does embrace and embody that Miami culture. So it's going to be fun. I mean, it's definitely going to be fun. I believe like maybe the top 4, 5, 6 seeds will be taken easily because you got Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Miami. You got Philly. Don't know what they're doing with Ben Simmons, but if they are able to trade him to Portland for Dame, that's going to be a nasty duo. But Ben Simmons made it clear he doesn't want to come to Portland or go to Portland or come to Toronto. I don't even think we want him, so fuck him. I mean, after what we saw in the playoffs last year, I mean, unless he has the most amount of shooting around him, he's not going to succeed in any environment. But Philly is still a threat every time with the beast like Joel Embiid in the paint. And if they get Dame Dollar, that's going to be a nasty dynamic duo, like I mentioned. And then you got Boston. They lost Kemba in the offseason. They traded him, and they got back Al Horford, which is solid because Al Horford had some of his best years with Boston aside from Atlanta. Didn't work out for him in Philly or OKC, obviously. But, he's familiar with that system. Brad Stevens isn't the coach anymore, but they still probably will run a lot of the same plays. And him being the small ball 5, that was kind of his best position, his natural fit. He used to play power forward younger in his career, but as he got older, the 5 position was his spot. And then you got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. They signed Dennis Schroeder, who during the season last year, $84 million. He dropped the ball on that one. He's not going to make up that money. He literally thought he was going to make $100 million the offseason. He thought $84 million wasn't a lot. He should fire his agent. And, for him, he ended up signing a minimum or mid-level exception, I think $5.9 million with the Boston Celtics for a year. They made it clear, I think Marcus Smart's going to start this. So I don't know how he's going to, secure that bag going into a 1-year deal coming off the bench more than likely. I don't know how he's going to make up that money and try to secure the bag next year. But hopefully he does. I mean, you don't want any guy to suffer like that. But, this reminds me of like the Nerlens Noel deal back a few years ago, I believe in 2017 with the Dallas Mavericks, where he turned down a 4-year, $70 million deal. He bet on himself, didn't work out like he did for Fred VanVleet. And the market really didn't want him. And he ended up checking into his qualifying offer on a 1-year deal left on his contract, hoping he'd bank on it. And it kind of worked out for him this year because he signed a $32 million deal with the New York Knicks. But once you lose that money, I mean, it's hard to make it back unless you get like a super max deal somehow out of nowhere. But these guys aren't getting that type of money. And Dennis Schroeder, he was supposed to get $21 million a year, 4-year, $84 million contract, and now he's only making $6 million. So he's lost a solid $15 million just this year alone. Feel bad for the guy, but yeah, he needs to fire his agent. So you got those teams just in the Eastern Conference alone. So I'll be very optimistic. I mean, wishful thinking, I'm very optimistic. The Raptors with their defense, I think they'll have one of the best defenses in the NBA going into next season. And I believe they're going to cause a lot of, problems, wreak havoc on a lot of teams, on a lot of nights with all that length. And I believe we could get the 6, 7, 8, maybe 5. 5 isn't that realistic based off the talent that's in the East this season. But, as a Raptors fan, we're not delusional, but we definitely feel like there are certain years where we overachieve. People write us off, and then, we prove them wrong. Last year, unfortunately, it didn't work out that way because we didn't have home court at all. All our games were on the road, and you noticed throughout the season at the beginning, like people in Tampa were booing us at home when teams like Miami came in, because they're in Florida as well, and a lot of fans just travel over and they had home court. And you saw Fred VanVleet say, "Shut the fuck up," and Duncan Robinson laugh at it because I think he told a fan to sit his ass down and wear a mask or something like that. But yeah, anyhow, shout out to Dalano Banton, got that rookie bag, 2-year, $2.5 million deal. We'll see how it goes. I just want to come on here and just talk about that a little bit, give the man some love. I didn't get to really go in depth with the draft picks that we made, and this is kind of my first video on one of the draft picks. I am going to come on. I'm probably going to do another video in depth about our number 4 pick, our lottery pick, Scotty Barnes. Yeah, that's about it. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to it. What are y'all waiting for? Stop slacking, bro. And we'll be back sooner rather than later. Can't wait for the Raptors season. But till then, stay blessed, stay woke, and please stay safe. Peace.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The price I want for sure you gon' need.